Hello, everybody. Yeah, thank you, thank you very much for joining. We are really happy and welcome you to our kickoff meeting from Systaimability. We brought together the best from systems thinking and systems change and sustainability. So we're really excited to also engage with you. My name is Daniel from Systaimability, and I will give the word now to my lovely co-host, Feli. And we are looking forward for a nice and engaging time with you. Welcome, everybody. Feli, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, my name is Feli, and a warm and happy welcome to all of you and to our first kickoff meetup today. Yes, sustainability is about connecting and inspiring people, and the vision about more sustainable and fairer place for all of us. Changing systems with our innovative and rethinking ideas with the strength of a whole community. The aim of the day should be for every one of you to bring 3 inspiring moments and ideas into your own system and rethink our sustainable future after this pandemic situation. So later in the day, you all have the chance to send us these 3 inspiring moments on menti.com if you want. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. So start the presentation. Yeah, this meetup is recorded and streamed live. If you do not want to film, please turn off your video now. So what's on our agenda today? Community engagement first, and interviews and talks. Lots of questions and probably innovative answers for you, hopefully, and 2 inspiring people. So let's start and have a great afternoon with our speakers, Anna and Sharam. Happy to have you here. And of course, with all of you, our growing community. Thank you for being with us today. We want to learn a little bit more first of you. That's why we prepared a few questions on menti.com. And please key in the voting code you see here on the slide. And we want to ask you some questions. Where are you from? And what does sustainability mean to you first? So you can use this hashtag, this QR code, or you can use menti.com and key in the voting code if you want. So. Lucy? So Lucy is just doing the Menti meter for our team. So
you need to change your screen, Lucy. We see now your desktop with all the beautiful pictures.
Okay, I shared the second screen. I don't know why.
Just try it again. And let's see where everybody of you is coming from. I saw already Berlin. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So we have obviously people from Madrid, from Berlin, Hamburg, Hungary. Wow. Hello to Hungary.
Wow.
That's amazing. Siedelsdorf.
Yeah, most of you.
Wherever that is. Hello to Siedelsdorf. Braunschweig.
A Coruña, Madrid.
Ah, Madrid. Oh, yeah.
Frankfurt, Braunschweig.
Yeah. The majority is definitely from Berlin, so big.
Yeah. Once everyone done answering the questionnaire, then
we're very happy to connect with the Berlin hub. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for joining. It's great. So some few more answers. I don't know. The next question. So what comes to mind when you think of sustainability? That will be really interesting for us. Oh yes, that's a good answer. Better word. So what do we have? System change, fighting climate change, of course. Global warming, yes. Complexity.
Wow.
We will share our screen and all the answers on our Slack channel. I will give you all the details in the next step. So then you can look at this little cloud here at our Slack channel.
But I really like the middle part, a better world, transformation, collaboration, and future. Yeah. I think they are pretty good keywords we can take as a foundation of today.
Survival is there on the side, getting a bit bigger.
Oh yeah, that's also nice.
Urgent. Yeah. It's urgent, yes. Yeah. So, some more. Some seconds more and then we switch back. Yeah, here on this slide, you see all the important links and informations from Systaimability. And we have a link tree for you. There's everything on and you can, join our Slack channel for more information, and we will post there some interesting events, books and videos. If you want to join, we're very happy about. And you can also join our Meetup group for upcoming information and events. And of course, our hashtags of the day are for all our social media channels, or for your social media channels are hashtag Systaimability, hashtag Rethink, hashtag Transformation, and hashtag Sustainable. So like Friday for Future today, we want to move on a Twitter storm challenge with you, and this is hashtag Systaimability after COVID means to me. And then you can say whatever you want, and we will be very happy if you join this little Twitter storm now. But so first, I want to introduce ourselves and the idea behind Systaimability before we will introduce our speakers and start to talk about rethinking sustainability after COVID. This is who we are. And of course, special thanks to Chris and Leszek for your technical support. And of course, to Maxi and from the Business Trends Academy, and Estefania and Reinhild. Estefania is from Business Model Innovators. Perhaps you know her Meetup group. So we live in uncertain times, and the interrelationships in the systems are becoming increasingly complex. Sustainability is the topic of the hour and has now made its way into the global economy from an agenda item previously considered a niche topic. There are more and more green initiatives, companies and movements like Fridays for Future, for example, that are finally focusing attention on the global issue of climate change. And that's why we founded Systaimability at the end of this November. It comes from system plus aim plus sustainability. And we are a group of enthusiasts and visionaries who met at the Business Trends Academy in Berlin and want to connecting people all over to rethink the sustainable transformation of the systems we all are in. Because the best time to rethink our own future is now. Our Meetup series will focus on identifying our current problems and finding solutions to combat the climate crisis. And our aim is to draw attention to the current challenges of our time and to find new innovative and sustainable solutions and to share with our community. So we aim to connect first. We want to connect experts with our community and point out the interdisciplinary challenges of our system. We aim to inspire. We want to encourage and inspire to try out, test, fail, transform, and learn new possibilities to make our world a greener and fairer place. And we aim to rethink. We want to rethink the transformation of systems so that it can become part of a more sustainable future and help achieve the 1.5 degree goal. And last but not least, we aim to look for, we seek and point out the new challenges of our time to provide inspiration to establish new business models after the pandemic and implement them innovatively. So now you have the opportunity to ask your own questions to Anna and Sharam or both on menti.com while they are speaking, while they have their presentations. So if you have questions to Anna, please mark with @Anna and then your question. So it's really easy. It's the same Menti code like in the former question. So yeah, let's start. Let's start with the keynotes from our speakers and our slogan first. Our slogan, which we use for this series, is "Our heads are round, so our thoughts can change direction." And yeah, let me now introduce you, Anna, and let and let the thoughts fly. So sorry, that was funny. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Anna. She's the founder of Planetly and a startup that develops software to help companies measure their own carbon footprint, reduce emissions, and achieve carbon neutrality. Man. Sorry. A few years earlier, she founded Outfittery, an online personal shopping service for men. I know Anna since a long time at university, and I remember that she started really early on rethinking social problems and questions and was looking for innovative solutions and business options for a long time. So today she's the mother of 2 adorable children and 2-time company female founder, and also was voted Europe's Inspiring 50, the most inspirational women in tech and young elite, top 40 under 40. Anna, would you now like to introduce your work and tell us a bit more about Planetly and your for-purpose to-profit approach? Sorry.
Yes, hi everyone. And I'm presenting. Okay, so yeah, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here tonight, not only because I have a long connection with Philly as being at university together and a long friendship that connects us, but because I know that all of you are caring about our planet, and this is very inspiring for me. And I love to speak to a crowd of people like you are, who care so much and are dedicating your time and energy to leaving it in a better shape. So I could start my presentation now with like a picture of our wonderful Earth, as probably many climate tech speakers are starting their presentations today. But instead, I decided to start with a quote of the biggest asset manager in the world, which is Larry Fink. He's the CEO of BlackRock, so one of the biggest investors, or the biggest investor worldwide. And when Larry Fink a few years ago put out this quote, this really was an epiphany, I guess, and really changed and made waves in the whole industry. So what he said is, sustainability will drive the way we manage risk, we construct portfolios, we design products, and we engage with companies. And so far, he has really done a lot to really hold the management of the companies that he's invested in accountable to change, accountable to reduce their emissions, and is really driving this whole thing in the economy forward. And I think this is really the good message here. So the climate crisis arrived in the boardrooms, and it arrived on the agenda of the decision makers in the economy today. And I think this is really, really good. So basically, the age of delivery has begun. We only have 10 years left to change and to reduce drastically our emissions. What you can see here is how steep this reduction curve needs to be. And so roughly, you can say reducing our emissions over the next 10 years will require us to reduce every year by around 10%. And to put this 10% into perspective, the reduction that has been done this year through COVID, through not flying at all, is estimated at around 8.5%. So that means every year from now on, we need to reduce more than the reduction through COVID in this year in order to land at our goal of 1.5 degrees. This is really, I think when I heard that, I saw this project, I found that really, really interesting and eye-opening. So, and now you might think, okay, politics will save us. There are a lot of initiatives, but when you look at the current measures of politics, they are actually rather targeting towards a 2.6 degree scenario. So 2.6, so between the 2.6 degree scenario of politics and the 1.5, so where we want to land, there's a 1.1 degree gap. And this gap needs to be filled by the business world. That is at least what I think and what we believe at Planet Yet. So that's why we are focusing on companies and how to enable companies to know and understand their carbon footprint. And I truly believe that climate neutral companies will be the norm in a few years' time. And there are good rational reasons for companies to move. So to some, like what you see brought here are 5 very good reasons. First is the employees. Employees increasingly care who they work for. Over 70% of the employees would prefer to work for a company that has a strong sustainability agenda. And 38% would even stay longer in this company. Then there is a critical consumer. The consumer is like increasingly want to know where the products are coming from and is willing to pay more for sustainable products. But it is as well the business partners. So for example, Microsoft announced that they will only do business with business partners who are climate neutral. And it's as well the investors. They are looking for innovators who know their climate risk and are managing it actively, and they are divesting from businesses that with a heavy footprint. But it is as well cost and regulations. So you see, there are really, really good rational reasons. And I think it's important to say that like climate action really became a business case for companies. So to sum this up, it's people increasingly care where they earn their money, where they spend their money, and where they invest their money. And this is really good. And bringing a lot of momentum into the business world. At Planetly, we made it our mission to make sustainability scalable. How are we doing this? So we developed a software which makes it really easy for businesses to understand their emissions, and integrate with the systems that are already in place and in the companies, which are holding a lot of data, to convert them into emissions and really give the company an easy view on their emissions, understand where their hotspots are, and understand as well where the reduction levers are, and can offset what they cannot reduce and become carbon neutral. We do all of this in full compliance with the GHG protocol standard. So that is the standard for carbon accounting, which is quite complex. And I always say, like, it's like the German tax law. So you don't want to dive into that yourself too deep. Basically, all this complexity is happening in the back end. So customer front end, from the customer front end, it's really usable and easy to use. And we explain a lot, because in the end, we want to really enable our customers to do it themselves, to understand it themselves, and make the whole footprint as actionable and tangible as somehow possible. Planetly, in a snapshot, I founded Planetly at the beginning of the year together with another experienced entrepreneur, Benedict Franke. We know each other from really old times, like at Rocket. So we worked over the year, which was really like a busy year for us, with over 28 pilot customers. Among them were HelloFresh, Ruga Friday, and many, many more. We put together a great team of 35 people with being really experts. So we have people on the team who have done nothing else but carbon accounting for the last like 10 years. So for example, our head of carbon intelligence has done the complete carbon accounting value chain for Volkswagen. So until every small thing in the car, he knows the emissions for that. And what we were able to secure is a round of funding of 5 million. I think it was really one week before the first lockdown, so in March. And why am I mentioning that? So, and this is my last slide, because I truly believe that impact is the equation of purpose and scale. And you can have the best purpose in the world. If you are not able to scale it, you will not have any impact. And there are different tools to scale. One obviously is technology. That's why we're heavily focused on technology and on our software solution. And the other tool to scale, from my perspective, is using investor money. Investors' money to grow, investors' money to hire great talent, to finance like some marketing and sales, to really push this topic forward and act really fast and now and get some momentum. And that's why I'm really proud as well that the investors we secured and the investment money here is not coming from impact investors. Because so there's a lot of going on in the investment space. You've probably noticed that a lot of impact funds and so on, which are all great. But if you put this into perspective, so the money that is flowing into impact funds versus the money that is flowing into conventional investors' money pockets, it is so tiny still what is on the impact side. And that's why I believe it's really important that we're using the conventional investor money, deploy it to the planet, and using it for models like ours, who are really like having the purpose and the profit at the core of their business and aligned in the core of the business. So what do I mean by that? The more people are using our software, knowing their emissions, reducing their emissions, offsetting their emissions, the more successful Planetly gets. And I think this is kind of a really like a purpose flywheel that we do have here. So with Planetly, we really align the purpose and the profit in the core of what we do and of our business model. And I'm very happy to talk with you about this topic. And I think Sharam will as well talk about this a little bit. And yeah, I'm very happy and looking forward to a controversial discussion around that. And happy to connect. Add me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to us. We're still looking for pilot customers for Planetly. So very open for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, so much. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah, in virtual times, I'm used to presenting and not getting any feedback at all afterwards. So as no,
yeah,
need to get used to
that's
that.
bad. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And you talked a lot about your customers and employees, and what we want to know is, do you ever recognize a change in their mindset and behavior since the start of this special situation, of this pandemic situation? What
So
changed?
to be honest, so we are only 1 year old, right, as a company now. So basically 70% of all our business activity was in COVID time. So basically we do, as a company, we don't know no COVID times, right? So so
but perhaps
I definitely have seen some people kind of like saying that's not on our agenda anymore for this year, but we're pushing it to next year. So I think it's not reduced in the importance. The climate crisis is not reducing the importance, but in the urgency for some businesses who completely need to restructure themselves because they have like gone from 100% to 0 in revenues this year, and so on and so forth, which is okay. And then on the other hand side, there are industries who are really like COVID winners, and these industries are massively like pushing forward, and there's a massive momentum in these industries. So for example, HelloFresh, so food delivery, a massive like COVID winner, for example, in the whole food chain and whole food industry, there's a lot of movement.
Okay. And the others who are the losers in this pandemic time, so what advice would you give people or businesses who are currently struggling in this challenging time? What do you say?
Yeah, so in the beginning of the year, we thought we are going to focus on travel first. So we revised the strategy, obviously, then in March when COVID hit us, right? Because of course, if a business is completely like turned upside down, they probably won't start a new project like becoming carbon neutral. And still, for example, one of our pilot customers, Tourlane, they stick to their promises. They stick to offsetting. They stick to further pushing the reduction projects, and so on and so forth. So I think that was really remarkable. They still stick to the promises they made earlier, and that was great. So I think, and for other businesses, it is fine, and we need to accept if they maybe do not have the full like focus on becoming carbon neutral this year, but we should definitely bring it back to their agenda right in the next year, and yeah, just make clear it hasn't lost the importance, but we need to, of course, tackle it, and the importance is huge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in the last few days, I read a book from Maya Göppel and Unsere Welt neu denken. And she said, you all know her, she's a German scientist and sustainability expert. And she talks about finding new solutions. And in case our minds aren't open for alternatives, the answer to our problems will be always a copy of what we already are used to know. So, my last question to you is, what do you think is the key of rethinking our future, making a sustainable transformation and creating innovative ideas and not a copy of the problems we had? Yeah. Because of this complexity in these times.
So I can maybe answer that from a perspective of carbon accounting. To be honest, I mean, what we're doing here is we want to bring the carbon emissions into the set of relevant KPIs for the decision makers in the companies. We don't only want to track them like the revenues and the margins, but as well the emissions. And I rather believe that today we're so far away from that. Today we're so far away from having this KPI there where it belongs. And if we stick to that, I think in that sense, it is better to to use the system that is in place instead of reinventing the wheel. So in the moment that the carbon emissions are really part of the monthly or quarterly reporting that the company is looking at, that the carbon emissions are part of the incentive systems of the decision makers. If you do not get your bonus, if you have not achieved your reduction goals, then I am happy, because I think we can use the system. We need to use the system in order to improve it, because we don't have time to change the system. So our world is like driven by as well individual incentive system, by boni, by that managers got, and so on and so forth. So I'm rather happy to use the structures that are there to bring it into the right direction, than trying to change something that will probably take forever to change.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So Daniel, do you have some other questions, or?
Oh yeah, actually we got quite a lot. There is a question from a pilot customer who need to act fast and would like to connect with you as soon as possible. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. And another one is, do you think that the revenue of HelloFresh are sustainable one in COVID is once the COVID-19 is battled?
Sorry, again.
Yeah, do you think that the revenue of HelloFresh is sustainable once the COVID-19 is battled? I'm just reading it. So I guess he wants to know what you think about the revenue or the business.
I don't know if you're holding some HelloFresh stocks. I don't give any advice on that. No, but yeah, I mean, so I definitely overall, I definitely think that the shift towards like e-commerce, towards a delivery, towards as well remote conferences and so on, I think a lot of these will stay as well in a post-COVID world. For many people, it was the first time they tried Amazon, they've tried like e-commerce things, and I think a lot of people will stay with that. So it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Very convinced.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks a lot. You already like crossed the question to both of you, which was about Amazon, but I think we will take it till the end and start a discussion out of it. I think it's a great opportunity. So yeah, thanks a lot for your very insightful and honest presentation of your business. And yeah, thanks Feli for the great interview. And well, Anna showed us a way now how to come from business and from economy to purpose, and Sharam will show us now a way of how we not only create or take businesses but also consciousness into the game and change our business models and our thinking from purpose to deep purpose. So I'm really honored to have you with us tonight, Sharam. Welcome. And yeah, before we start our conversation and hear your presentation, I would like also to say a few words about you. Sharam is a founder of Human Nation, which is a disruptive consultancy.
Innovation advisory, yeah.
Yeah, innovation advisory, thanks a lot. His main focus is on decarbonization, circular economy, and digitalization. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hear his thought about and his thought and introduction about the transition to a regenerative culture and his deep purpose philosophy, which he will present us on his Three Horizons framework, which builds up on the findings of Otto Scharmer theory U, but also donut economics and Bill Wheel's model. So I'm really happy and honored once again. Welcome, Sharam. And on this way, before you start, big shout out to BMI and to Reinhild for connecting us. So thanks a lot, and over to you, Sharam.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks, Daniel, and the Systaimability team for making all this happen, and the business model innovators, Stefania, thank you, and Reinhild. And it's great to see so many of us here because this is a hot topic. So thank you. It's an honor to be here. So I can do my presentation. I mean, just to link it to what Anna was saying, I think it's wonderful to see. If we could do this accounting of the carbon, it's already a huge indicator in terms of our ecological footprint, because we are running on a fossil fuel economy, you know, which is what's brought us here in terms of progress. So it's already a huge step, but it does kind of leave behind some of the social dimensions, obviously, which is a pillar of sustainability. Some human dimensions around, you know, how we think and behave and what motivates us in terms of some of the philosophical things, and also some of the resource issues. I mean, in terms of circular economy, because although that's linked to carbon, but a lot of the path to decarbonization doesn't take into account the ecological impact in terms of use of other resources, like, for example, batteries and you know, solar panels. So the question of scale of some of these is a question mark, a big question mark. So I think what we're trying to do is just kind of look a little bit further down the horizon, and you know, what I would like to just present a little bit. This was actually a firm that was born out of the COVID lockdown, because there was a lot of ideas that we were waiting to kind of, that's, you know, it's what I've been building up, talking to people about. And I decided to launch this. Actually, it happened to be on Earth Day, which was a nice symbolic gesture. So this is the Earth Day, what's called the Earthrise. Just a very brief note on this. When the astronauts went to the moon to take the photo and explore the moon and arrived there, the whole focus was on the moon. But when the guy turned around his camera and actually looked behind himself in a natural gesture, he saw actually this photo. And then he kind of realized that actually the most impactful part of the journey to the moon was to be able to take this photo. And then the impact this has had apparently in our consciousness is beyond what we can imagine, because in fact, it coincides with much of the global environmental movement, which started in the West, where this kind of imagery was much more extensively, you know, communicated. But we know that in around the 1970s, also in 1972, the Club of Rome issued their report on the limits to growth. As we can see, that this planet is not flat and doesn't go on forever, which is what you think when you're standing on it. But it's actually a finite globe with, it's a Gaia ecosystem, it has limits. So a lot of issues around, you know, this was brought to our imagination. So that's wonderful to see that the global environmental movement kind of coincides to the taking of this move. You know, of course, there were naturists who were very profoundly involved in nature, but it wasn't in global consciousness. The other thing we know is that we're living in a time of huge crisis in terms of the legacy system. So the question now is, how do you keep the lights on, avoid revolution, keep children in schools and all that, you know, the basics, but also transform our human presence so that, you know, before business as usual leads to runaway climate change, drastically impoverishes the ecosystems, and early demise of the species, which is pretty much what's projected if we carry on, of course, on the current trajectory. So this is a very serious challenge we've been posed since the scientific revolution that brought us here, thanks to all the advance in technology and science. So one of the things that really helped me to kind of discuss this, have this discussion, is to see that there are actually like three horizons. You know, one is the one that's going down, is this world in crisis, which we see that hopefully will decline in terms of you know, its impact, so that we can transition to a more sustainable path. We see a lot of new technologies and models and approaches, business models, behavior change, consciousness, that's taking us to some kind of a hybrid model. So I take this like a hybrid car, you know, it's like if you want to still go to the beach holiday or whatever, you can't still use, the average person can't use an electric car, so you need a kind of hybrid to get there. So I think a lot of impact businesses and purpose businesses are in this space, and I think they're a great part of the transition and absolutely necessary. We have to bear in mind and be careful that, you know, what this model that was developed by the International Futures Forum does say is that there is a kind of a H2 plus and a H2 minus. So there are technologies here that might be contributing to the old thinking. And I think Felicitas said a very important point around we cannot change and really transform things deeply if we look at it from the old thinking. You know, it's what Einstein also said. So we have to have a different out of the box, completely fresh approach to really transform. So this is where this H3 path is really about, because what we were saying is that here, the H2, there are some that are positive that can contribute to H3 and some that actually might be contributing to H1 without us knowing about it. So this is where we have to be vigilant in terms of the new technologies and solutions that are being promised, to make sure that they're not actually contributing to take us back down this H1 trajectory. The other thing is that this underlying thing is an emerging regenerative culture, which is a much deeper transformation that's kind of on the rise, and we see a lot of movement. You could say it's perhaps born from the type of thinking that we see in permaculture, we see in deep cradle-to-cradle approach to thinking, systems thinking, Gaia theory. So all that kind of more deep approaches to transformation that somehow aim for deep ecology, connecting also even to some ancestral knowledge, and also to bringing the new technologies. So kind of joining the scientific revolution to ancestral knowledge and Gaia thinking. So it's kind of some kind of a convergence going on. But that would be a different path. So what we're trying to do in Human Nation is support companies in the H2 and H3 space. Where we call ourselves Disruptive Innovation Advisory is because the disruption is happening here and here. But the difference is that the green path is transformative disruption, and this is what we call just disruptive innovation. So other thing is that donut economics has allowed us to think about things very holistically. One of the things Kate Raworth says, we have to see a company as a whole, you know, in terms of course, its purpose, but also who they relate with, and also the governance structure, how that's, you know, organized, if it's distributive, who's on their board, what kind of thinking is there, and also in terms of ownership, you know, where the money comes from and also where it goes, importantly. And in terms of finance, of course, the ownership is also about, you know, how the company is controlled, who makes decisions, but the finance is just, you know, in terms of what kind of finance and where it comes from and so on. So this is something Anna also touched on. So this video can be also seen online. So we want to try and, obviously with this new economic, we can't grow forever. We know that the planet has limits. We know that there are certain social foundations that have to be maintained. So what we see today is that there are major shortfalls on social foundations, and there are major breaches of planetary boundaries, you know, of keeping us within safe ecosystem limits that mean that we don't have ecosystem collapse, species loss, you know, all the different impacts we're seeing. But also very important is the social foundation, you know. So one of the important ones is social inequality, for example, is a huge issue, but also health and having freedom of choice and political voice, which is democracy. As we know, since COVID, the question of democracy and even just before that is becoming a very sensitive issue. So another thing is in terms of sustainability, how am I doing with time? Daniel, you're always great.
Yeah, just go ahead and present the slide, and then we will go over to Q&A, I think.
Okay. So just in terms of sustainability, you know, what we were talking about is, so far there's a big question around whether sustainability is actually going to get us there. One of the biggest challenges with sustainability is what Anna said about scale and impact. if African emerging countries, China, India, and these countries start becoming prosperous like we are, and that's a big question mark about how prosperous are we, because it depends how you define prosperity. But we have a lot of comfort and things that I think we have acquired in the Western model, you know. But at the same time, if other countries start adopting that, you know, it will not be sustainable by our standards of sustainability. It's impossible that we can scale what we call sustainable today. Also, because of the amount of damage that we've seen already done, you know, we need to go to models that are actually restorative and regenerative, because we have a lot to heal, we have a lot to fix. So there's a huge amount of work to do, and anybody who says that we have problems with employment in the future, you know, because robots are going to take our jobs, I think they need to think again, because there's a huge amount of work to be done to restore the ecosystem and social fabric. So it's just about being innovative and finding new business models to do it and creating the employment, you know. The other thing to bear in mind is a lot of scholars and discussion is around how we are at the tipping point of a massive shift in era. Some people say it's the biggest, you know, I mean, it's clearly the biggest shift since the scientific revolution in terms of the impact, but it's on a global scale. And also it's the biggest, I mean, some people say even since the agricultural revolution in terms of the impact we're going to be having and how we have to, you know, rethink everything. So normally what happens in innovation and evolution is there's an emergence, and then there's a kind of a maintenance, and then there's a dying out or kind of flattening of the curve. And then a new one you can see is being born already underneath that. So this has happened through all the phases of technology, but also in evolutionary kind of epochs, you know, like, but some of them continue coexisting. So for example, with the scientific revolution, the whole science and technology thing came up. And perhaps we're now not at the end of that from an era point of view. So obviously we're going to use all that science and technology, but take it to the next level. So this is something to bear in mind, that what also happens is whenever a system is shutting down, the conservatives, or the ones that are maintaining where the most of the power is held in that system, will be lashing back, you know. So there's a lot of pushback from conservative, let's say, points of view or there. And then there are some, let's say, progressives, or, you know, people who are taking the system and the new one that's being born. There needs to be negotiation and converting enough people to come on board to get into some kind of a tipping point of that system to shift. So normally some people argue there's like 20% needed to get to that tipping point, you know, 10 or 20% depending on. The other thing is what the Presencing Institute, with the work they've done, have identified is that a lot of what we see is actually the tip of the iceberg, you know, because the ecological divide between ourselves and nature, the social divide, that's the breakdown of the self with others, the relationships, and how we see ourselves versus the other. And this spiritual divide, they actually explain it very well, because sometimes people have fear of the word spirituality, but actually it's more about our own idea of who we are and who we could potentially be, you know. So that idea of abundance and possibilities of individual capacity, you know, to be something more than, you know, sometimes how we're defined by society or by our families. So, you know, the question is, you know, one of the perhaps questions, how do we get there, is to have this deeper approach to questioning where all these symptoms come from. So instead of looking at the symptoms, trying to solve them, looking at the root causes. So this is basically problem solving. Then we need to become more present in terms of understanding really what's happening. So we need to have the information. So this is about focusing on this disruptive transformation rather than just on incremental changes or you know, ad hoc solutions. Another thing I really like about the Presencing Institute work is that it talks about how we need to let go of the past ways of thinking here and start sensing what's happening to get to the source of the problem. Because a lot of the problems we see today, which are like climate change or ecological collapse or species loss or polarity of society and conflicts, And these breakdowns, like more people dying from suicide than military, combat or conflict, depression, anxiety, addictions, this kind of collapse of our own health. A lot of it, there are structures that are actually maintaining that to be the case, and underneath that, there are thought systems or philosophies, or ways of thinking, let's say, that are maintaining those structures. And in order to question these thoughts and break them down so that we can actually transform them to new thoughts, the idea is that we need to have this deeper connection with ourselves and with our, others through some kind of working together. So they have methodologies and approaches to do that. So somehow we need to get to the source to be able to do creativity and come out of the other side. So there's a whole methodology around that, which I also spoke with Daniel about. And we think that
maybe it's a good question. Maybe it's a good time for me to jump in
yes.
Because Otto Scharmer says that the biggest problem in the world today is that is the knowing doing gap. Yeah, for example, when we for those of you who know project broke down, there are 100 solutions. Yeah, or for these 100 solutions needed to overcome climate change, there are 80 actually technical solutions possible, but are we using them now? No, we don't. Why? Because of this knowing doing gap. And that would be my first question to you. What is the biggest challenge that we need to overcome to transition, to as you call it, regenerative culture with deep purpose?
I think my personal understanding is that there's a lot of rigidity in the system, in our thoughts and also in the institutions, in business, and also in interests, because what happens is that when you have a lot of lockdown investments and so on, it's very difficult to come out of them. So it's also the way, decisions are made. So let's say if there was a way that we could really individually understand the importance of these things, connect on the local level with communities, and really debate what are the most important issues, regardless of all the noise around us, because there's a huge industry that's creating noise around 4 probably most important existential issues in our lives. Or even if you think about our own personal lives, there are probably 4 or 5 issues, but we're constantly, with the mobile, this, that, the other, with our work, distracting ourselves of the real pains, the real issues that are affecting us, our family, our relationships, our business. But if you take that to the global scale, there are really very few issues that we have to collectively tackle. And, my feeling is that we need to connect to that. So there's this connection in the deeper sense of also accessing the information. But the only way we can do that is start talking about these things, rather than, football, politics, and all these things, which seems to be going around like a Ferris wheel, no? It's like, okay, fantastic. But, if we really get down on the ground and have these debates and think, how do we put our heads together and do it? So the issue of community, the issue of connection emotionally with the self, with the other, empathy, developing certain capacities that we've lost, coming out of the individualistic mindset, all these things are very, very big learnings for us. And I think COVID-19, what they call the great pause and the forced meditation, as some people call it, with the lockdown and so on, has got a lot of people to think about some of these issues. So I think other than that, the technology and all that, as Anna also said, a lot of it is scalable, a lot of it is available, but there are some also intrinsic interests not to make the transition too quickly. I think that if we had a more democratic decision-making process, I think a lot of the decisions would be made in a more agile way. That because we have a pyramidal decision-making process, it makes it, it's like a funnel. It has to really hurt before, it has to be really, yeah.
But maybe to take it a little bit, so that's like the last question, and maybe to also try to get them more design focus a business focus back to the discussion. You talked about your circular by design model and how you could support businesses to implement this regenerative and this deep purpose model. Maybe you can show us how you're going to do this, and what are your advices, or your how you're trying to reach this aim.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we're trying to do is connect some of the kind of different ecosystems that are arising. So I think so one of them is the personal thinking and philosophical side of it. So a lot of people, let's say, they might call it mindfulness, yoga, things they do in their personal life to develop themselves. Then we have the economy, circular economy model, the energy sources, decarbonization. We have distributive sources like networks, platforms, blockchain. So a lot of this at the moment is functioning in disparate ways. So we want to bring this knowledge into business as a holistic and interconnected system of thought. And in terms of toolboxes, methods, technologies, even in education, communication, and basically what we don't have in business today is access sometimes to bring all this together. So we want to bring an ecosystem of solutions that can connect these, and very much focus on solutions that are transformative, in terms of innovation. So as an innovation advisory, that's one of the things. The other thing is breaking this gap between personal development and consciousness development and healing or whatever, and the business world, because sometimes we have this like a disconnect, so when we go into business, we're like machines, performance and all these things, and we dehumanize, the business. The idea is that the people who lead, that the people that work for us or work together with us, they're all part of, they're human at the end of the day. Everybody's human. So we need to break this boundary between who we are as human beings. So what Otto Schumann even says, he says our self and our work, our work and our self, we need to break those divides. So one of the other things is taking a circular economy approach from a very broad cradle to cradle approach, but also, taking account not only the material cycles that today's circular economy is very focused on, but also the carbon cycles, of course. So that's the link with climate change. Also how the economic and financial cycles work. So where's the money coming from and where is it being distributed? So the distribution of wealth is fundamental in terms of, how distributive and distributed circular economy would be implemented in the future. And then also the social design in terms of how value is distributed. Value means, recognition for our work, how we feel participatory in the process, and how we are part of solving problems and solutions. The other thing is fundamental is about intellectual property. At the moment, we know that there's a shift in the regenerative culture towards more open IP and more open models and designs for intellectual property. So the historical, let's say, more competitive or militaristic approach to, the old way of doing business, let's say, it's all about acquiring IP and maintaining that, in a monopolistic or a controlling way. Sorry, then.
And yeah, let's keep the slow accelerator for the Q&As in the end.
Yes.
And end with a disruptive system. Yeah. And
so the I can just finish this. I mean, just to say that distributed systems are also around platforms. So what we're trying to do is, my work in the last few years has been in trying to get public funding for innovation. So we try and do collaborative projects for innovation to take ideas into market. But when we do that, we try to take this holistic approach and build it into the project so that we are matchmaking the different technologies. One of the things at the moment, one of our focus areas, for example, is the fashion and textile industry, where we're doing that.
Okay, thank you very much, Sharam. And I see already a lot of very exciting and a great question popping up. But I think now, after such a input, it's also time for you to get an output, and allow us to get you to know get to know your thoughts and your ideas. Yeah, I would like to give the word now to Feli, that she can introduce us to our next exercise. Yeah, which which is going to be.
Sorry, do you want to say something or something?
No, you can take it away. Hey.
Okay. Yes, the next part, you get some really a lot of input now. So we thought about growing our community with you, and yeah, what we are doing next is to go into breakout session rooms, and for the next 10 minutes, only 10 minutes, and yeah, collect some thoughts about these two keynotes on, yeah. Let's do this. We enter to the breakout rooms in Zoom, which are shown up personally in your account. And then if you have Miro on your device, you can join us on the Miro board. But if you don't, doesn't matter. It's okay. And I will the moderation is done. We share the the screen. Yeah.
Just to continue, or just to elaborate, in every room is going to be a moderator, and for those of you who don't have Miro, it's no problem at all. You can just post your answers in the chat, and we will put it on the Miro board. And this is going to be a work in progress session, which we are going to continue in our Slack channel. So just write down your answers. After 10 minutes, we will take you back. And by the end of the day, by the end of this meetup, we will sum them up and continue them in deep dive sessions on our Slack channel. Yeah, just maybe one question to once I set up the breakout rooms and put everybody on its place, maybe we can ask on Anna's thoughts about deep purpose.
No? What?
And sorry, I thought we're going into the breakout rooms now.
Yes, we are going.
Sorry.
Yes,
yeah, I just need a few 1 minute maybe to divide us all. So and I need to overcome the time. So I'm sorry.
I'm the pausen girl here. So now what was the question?
Sorry. No, that's not true, Anna.
So some cheerleading while we're waiting.
I'm so sorry.
I get.
So,
just kidding.
Do you have any questions about to come into
So I'm very much looking forward to your questions, especially as you now have the task to work on these questions first. So they will probably be very challenging for Sharam and myself. So I'm very much looking forward to this. And maybe to use a break for one thing that I forgot in my presentation to tell you. So we see Planetly in our software not at all replacing the work of great consultants, as many of you are as well, but actually rather additional to that. So in future, we will as well have a certified group of consultants we work with. We will have consultants log in so that you can access the data from the company, actually see their hotspots, see their footprints, and really use this as a basis for reduction recommendation, reduction consultancy, and further strategic sustainability consultancy, which is then going much broader than we are. So we definitely don't see ourselves as a consultant, but really as a software provider. Yeah, so that was important for me to mention. Good.
Okay.
And
thank you very much. That was the perfect ending, and I guess also clarification to where you also align with Sharam. So the 10 minutes starting now, and I'm really curious what you come up with. Yes. So hello, welcome back, everyone. That was, as we said, just a work in progress, or the start of a work in progress session. We are really much looking forward to continue this engagement with you. And we want to remind you on our Twitter storm. So don't forget to take out your phones and hashtag us with sustainability and answer the question. Feli, help me out.
Sorry. One moment. One moment. Don't want to say something wrong.
Yeah.
So here it is. Also hashtag sustainability after COVID means to me. What?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, thanks a lot. And now we will come to our final discussion with our amazing speakers, Anna and Sharam. And I'm curious what we collected on question, and we'll give the word now to our lovely Lucy. Welcome.
Thanks a lot. I try to share my screen second time. Let's see if it works. Can you see the question?
Yes.
Yes.
The most upvoted question of the day was, can mega businesses like Amazon realistically scale sustainability? Aren't they inherently unable to treat employees and an environment in a fair way? What do you say, Anna? It's a question for both of you, but let's start with Anna.
So as you probably might recognize already, that I am quite an optimistic person, maybe. I don't see anything pointing towards that it's systemically not possible to run a huge business in a sustainable way and treating employees and environment fair. I do not see any signs why this shouldn't be possible systemically. There are good examples of businesses who are doing that. For example, Bosch is one of our carbon heroes and sustainability heroes overall, having a really long history, super big company, and doing really well on this. And there is no reason for me, and maybe playing this back to you, there's no reason for me, like in all the economics and the business case, also we're just speaking for that this shouldn't be possible. Sharam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it kind of also goes back to this question you raised about scale and impact, and I think that was a very good point around impact is purpose and scale. I think probably in the first instance, I mean, that's what we hope to do with the existing corporations, because they are the biggest, let's say, some of them are, bigger than countries in terms of the impact they have. But I was thinking, when we look at the regenerative space, what we're hoping is the future companies will be broken down into smaller pieces, and there'll be more like distributed network companies, and that's what we're seeing happening with this open IP approach. And I think I would replace the word impact equals purpose and scale with maybe further in the future aiming for impact is deep purpose and replicability and transferability. So it's about how much you can replicate and transfer an idea as quickly as possible based on local models that are working and are resilient, and making that so that it's more freely available for people to replicate and transfer. So that it's a distributed model rather than a monolithic hierarchical model. And that's where we see blockchain and things are making that possible, for example. And there is going to be a need for this huge old-fashioned way of organizing. I think corporations, personally, I think they come from, a couple of centuries back, even more than that, with the the rise of the corporations, that they come from a nation, you know, that old mindset that we talk about is about Westphalian model, that nations used to go alongside with corporations to control resources. They would take people as resources at the same time, you know, they were used as resources. So corporations come from that mindset, and then they would exploit these resources and generate profit for the stockholders. And that hasn't changed fundamentally. I think, in fact, venture capitals like BlackRock and Vanguard that control the majority of the assets in the world are a good example of how that power has been concentrated in the hands of very few people. And that in itself is not socially sustainable. I think if the power is distributed more fairly, you don't have this crisis of the commons, because people will make better decisions more collectively. I think, you know, I would hope for a different model, to be honest, than the corporate model going forward.
Yeah. This aligns also with the answer or with the comment of Sustainability Accelerator, who commented that isn't Bosch outsourcing most of its factory to countries like China, and I think one can include Volkswagen as well. So I think that's yeah, I like these two different ways and thoughts of it, and I think there's a maybe it's a third way possible. One can include it, but maybe we will have time for one more question, because we already taking a little longer than we thought. So I know it's really exciting, and we will go and try to answer all the questions we got from you, but maybe we have time for one more, if it's okay for you, Anna and Sharam.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The second question is, maybe it's a little general, but maybe you can specify it more from your presentation. What is your purpose, and how do you aim to turn your goals into reality? Anna.
So I mean, as said, Planetly is my second business. I am much aware now in my second business that it's my lifetime that I'm investing here, and this lifetime is limited. So when I was taking a year off in 2019, thinking about what's next for me in life, I was very conscious about choosing that space, and the purpose of my daily work was super important to me, that I don't need to ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I not hanging out with my kids, but instead going to the office and working on this? And yeah, I obviously ended up with Planetly, and my purpose is to really help people doing the right decision, making the right decisions, which are bringing us on a better path. And this is what we're trying here. And how I'm putting this into reality, pretty obvious. I mean, so as a second-time entrepreneur, I love starting businesses, and I'm much more a builder than anything else. I probably would be not at all good employee in a big corporate. I'm extremely bad at politics, like corporate politics. So things that I can do is starting own business in my own businesses, and I love doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Sharam.
So, Sharam, over to you.
Okay, so yeah, mine is I would say is to be, you know, as honest and congruent or true to myself as much as I can. You know, that's one thing I'm trying to do throughout my life. But at the same time, I learned some place to click in my mind was like by being of service and giving in a genuine way, then the universe kind of returns back, you know. And if I can be generous and honest with myself, trying to really, you know, help real situations, you know, then I believe in this abundance thinking. So I'm trying to shift from my education, which was based on scarcity. This is your role. This is what you have to do, and kind of who you're going to be to this kind of shift to creativity and abundance thinking, you know, where by being of service, by doing, then by giving, then you comes back to you, you know. And on a practical level, I love designing projects, bringing people together, inspiring people so that we collectively do something, you know. And, you know, for me, that's it. I think leadership is about opening the path or being the first one that jumps in the fire, you know, and then the rest can decide whether they want to come along or not. But it's a very different way to what I was taught, to be honest, in business school. So one of the things is to unlearn a lot of things I learned. That's another purpose I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have time for another question, or?
Yeah, it depends. I think we would also like to hear from the audiences. Maybe we can do it like this, that we collect the questions, evaluate them, and then try to answer them, because I think we can let it go forever. But I think it's all, we would maybe shoot out the last Mentimeter and then try to continue the discussion on Slack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to say one thing I heard in the chat was very nice, that people said, somebody said moving from competition to collaboration. So I thought that was very nice to, as a summary of this for me, is that post that somebody posted in the chat. I thought it was a very nice way of summing it up.
yeah, maybe that's a beautiful idea. Also, yeah, Anna, would you also to close your thoughts in one sentence or with one line of this day, or of the questions and the comments you're reading now?
Yeah. So the one that you just picked really stood out to me as well. I really like that. And this for me was as well something that I've learned this year. When I'm thinking back to our Twittery, we were very competitive back then, right? So it was a really like fashion, the one fashion brand versus the other fashion brand, and so on and so forth. And now being a climate tech entrepreneur, one of the first calls that I had, someone in Spring was a competitor of ours, and he explained me that it is different here in that space. And he said we are rather the snowboarders instead of the people who are going by ski. So on ski, they are very competitive. So who's faster, who's better in racing, ski racing. And the snowboarders are, if someone is doing a great like backflip or something, they really clap each other on the back and say, hey, great job, well done. And so I like that, because I mean, in the end, we're all working towards the same goal. And there are so many different perspectives, as you as well they've seen today, and on the same topic, but we all have the same aim. And I think this is fantastic. And no matter if in the end it's us or our competitor or someone else who's like owning this market, it is good for the planet and for everyone. So I think this is really fantastic. So this collaborative spirit in the whole kind of sustainability space. And I think this is something that we can bring as well to the people we work with, into the businesses we work with.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was a very beautiful Schlusswort, takeaway, yeah. Ending, but one can't do it much more beautiful. So I think, yeah, thank you very much. But before we go, I will give the word back to Lucy for the last questions, or for Feli, sorry, for the last question we have to you. Yeah, please connect with us on Slack, on our social media channels, and let this be a start of a beautiful engagement, yeah, and community building and
collaboration.
Yeah, and operation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm out of words. So let's ask the last Mentimeter question. Thanks for all of you who have stayed until the end. And yeah, thank you. Thanks first of all for this amazing team behind the team who have done an amazing job. And also to our collaboration partners, to VAT, BMI, Planetly, Human Nations, and most and lastly, obviously to Anna and Sharam. And thanks also to all of you who have been here. Last questions of the day is Mentimeter. Could you open it, please? Because we just see the link tree.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot today. So,
Okay.
can you see this? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this was the last, and that's yeah. Hello.
Okay. Please go to Mentimeter or menti.com and put in 612955.9 and thank you very much for your time and participation.
Yeah. What else can I say? Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, and thank you, Anna, so much, and Sharam. Lots of great ideas and thoughts coming to our heads, and so yeah, thank you, our fantastic team, and wish you a good evening, and yeah, you all are at home, so not driving safe home, so yeah. Merry Christmas
so
and
organizing.
yeah,
Thank you very
and
much.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
you.
Thank
Great.
you.